our government's run. It's not run by our elected representatives who are public servants. It's run by these bureaucrats who don't care about what the Constitution says. They just implement their own rules and legislation, regardless of whether our state, local, or federal elected representatives want it done.
And there's a name for that. It's called tyrants.
That's right. Hey, Alex, I'm a 22-year telecommunications representative, engineer with some of the bigger telecommunications companies. I know that you're very aware, because I've heard you talk about it before, of this technology whereby it's actually called CALIA, where law enforcement agencies can actually monitor everything that we say and do over the telecommunications infrastructure. The scariest thing about that technology is it's manufactured and serviced by Israeli companies.
Yes.
Now, if you look up a company called Comverse, C-O-M as in Mary, V-E-R-S-E, they are a Tel Aviv-based company. And when working for one of the larger telecom companies, when we were installing this equipment, I alerted our management to the fact that, hey, these people over in Tel Aviv have 24/7 access to not only what all of the general public is.
Yeah, not only the NSA has black boxes and black fiber that everything runs through. Israel does, and that's been public for a decade, because that's what this country's all about, being completely run by foreigners.
And it's the scariest part about all of it is this Tel Aviv company has the ability to not only see what we say and do, but what all of our law enforcement does and plans. So if you were, some terrorist organization, and we all know that Al-Qaeda is run by the Pentagon and probably our buddies over in Israel, if they wanted to plan false flag terrorist activities, they know exactly what all of our local and state and federal law enforcement agents are doing, where they are, they know all of our plans. So when it comes to, implementing their agenda, they know everything that our law enforcement's doing. Another very scary thing about the way telecommunications is going. You've heard about 4G and LTE. Well, Alex, the scary thing about this network is it is an IP-based network.
It tracks exactly where you are, then it ties into the GPS tracking coordinates, and they can dial in over the 1996 Telecommunications Act with the onboard spy chips to turn the phones and devices on and listen to you and watch you.
And it doesn't use standard cable and pair from the central office to your home. It uses the internet as the backbone. So just like the president and everyone else in Congress now seems to want this internet kill switch, it's not just going to kill your internet.
No, it's the phones, everything, and that's why they say Obama will pop up on your smartphone with announcements. If you go to Walmart, the telescreens, they're going to be in your life, they admit, forcing their way in front of you and surveilling everything you do.
Exactly. Scary thing, too, Alex. Did you ever play that game Risk when you were growing up?
Yes.
That board game?
Yes.
Well, you would always put all of your pieces around your most valuable territories. Well, look at the agenda that the globalists have. If you were going to try to take over the United States, what would you do? First of all, you'd disarm all, the general public.
You take control of the monetary system, take control of education, take control of telecommunications, surveil everyone. Every major professional I talk to is being approached by Homeland Security to spy on everyone. The U.S. is completely converting to a nightmare system.
But look what's going on in New York and California. The people are going to be broke. The state and local governments are going to be broke, so there's not going to be any local 43
states are now going publicly into receivership under the feds.
Yes, and then the people are going to be starving to death. And then because our military is so spread out around the whole world, Alex, I don't think that this nation any longer is immune to attack by a foreign force. I think that we are going to be so broke monetarily, morally, we're going to be starving to death. and look at the two coasts of this country are going to be so I mean, the populations are fleeing from New York and California. Look at the numbers. The populations of these coastal states are just...
No, they're running from the socialism, and then as the collapse into depression, the giant hordes of lazy welfare heads are going to be turned into auxiliary police with automatic weapons, robbing, stealing everything, while George Soros sits offshore laughing with pleasure.
Everybody has heard the National Emergency Alert System. Radio and TV stations regularly test it to make sure the public is notified in times of peril. Well, that system is overseen by the FCC, and now the agency wants to upgrade it by having presidential announcements feed into the alert system. It's also looking at how wireless broadband could also enhance EAS.
What this test is a test of the presidential EAS. Typically, right now, people hear periodically EAS testing. Those are done at the state and local level. They're done on a monthly basis. The idea behind this test is it would be issued by FEMA, which has the responsibility for issuing the presidential EAS, and it would go through the whole EAS system to the public. It would be done on a nationwide basis. So what the American public would see during this presidential test is something similar to what they see on a monthly basis, the beep, beep, beep. This is a test of the emergency alert system. Only this one would be coming from FEMA as opposed to being done within individual states.
So it's not as if the Oval Office will suddenly appear on everybody's screen should something happen.
Well, I can't get into, at this point, exactly how the test message will be configured, but the idea is that FEMA, which issues the presidential alert, would be issuing this one.
And what's required technically or policy-wise to enable this test to happen?
Well, the first thing that was required is that the FCC had to adopt a rule that set the basic framework. Prior to our order that was issued last week, our rules called for monthly and weekly testing, which is done by EAS participants. The monthly test is done at the state level, but there wasn't a rule in place that called for or allowed a test all the way through the system from top to bottom. I mean, the bottom line is to make sure that this system, if there's ever an emergency where a decision is made to activate it, that it works the way it was intended to. And the current testing that goes on doesn't test from top. They don't test from top to bottom. So this is really the only way to do that.
Lisa Fowkes is the Deputy Chief of Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau at the FCC. And also in the notice there was a discussion of broadband and how that might tie into the EAS. What's the thinking there?
Well, basically, the reference to broadband goes back to a recommendation that was in the FCC's National Broadband Plan, which was issued last year. One of those recommendations was that the Commission ought to begin a proceeding to look at how to leverage broadband technologies and how to leverage the Internet for emergency alerting. Not necessarily the EAS. The EAS is actually one arsenal in our toolbox for getting out, for notifying the American public during emergencies. Another tool that we have is the commercial mobile alert system, which is currently being developed by FEMA and the wireless industry, which would allow text messaging or wireless alerts to be sent by wireless carriers to their subscribers, including a presidential alert. Mm-hmm. And so the look at broadband is sort of the next step. Okay, what other tools can we leverage to ensure that if there's an emergency, we can get timely, accurate information out to the American public?
I wanted to follow up on that because that was one of the questions I had for you. You talked about the mobile alert system. You say that is being developed. Can you give us an update on that too?
Basically, with the commercial mobile alert system, the Commission adopted rules back in 2008, which allowed wireless carriers, if they chose to do so, to transmit emergency alerts. The idea was to have a national alerting system that used mobile technologies. And so what this system would allow alert originators to do is send 3 kinds of alerts. The presidential alert, which would be the same as what the president might issue or FEMA might issue through the EAS system. Imminent threat alerts, there's a hurricane coming or a tornado coming, and then the amber alerts. Currently, a number of carriers within the wireless industry, including the 4 major nationwide carriers, are working with FEMA to actually go in and develop that system. And it right now is slated to begin deployment in April of 2012.
Sounds like Twitter on steroids. Lisa Fowlkes is the Deputy Chief of Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau at the FCC. We thank you very much for that update.
Thank you.